welcome to our next flip video. What we are now going to explore is how did the death of Muhammad affect the Ummah, with the Ummah, of course, being that political and religious community of Islam. To start us off, just a few terms. When Muhammad died, he had established what is known as the Caliphate, and that is the term to describe the political and religious empire of Islam. Of course, remembering that Islam, there was no government on the Arabian Peninsula, so as Muhammad gained his followers, Islam was seen not just as a religion, but as an entire way of life, and the government was an extension of that. The leader of this caliphate was known as the Caliph. And when Muhammad died in 632, just of natural causes, there was no clear successor, meaning the next person to be in charge for the caliph. There was no clear lines or directions that Muhammad had given. So this lays the groundwork for what will ultimately become a split in the empire. And you can see at the right there's the spread of Islam. I'm just going to use my arrows here for a minute. You can see at the time of Muhammad's death, you can see that we have the territory, and the orange here is the area that was under Muhammad's control. So there's still within the Arabian Peninsula into Yemen and modern-day Oman, but not an expansive amount of territory. That's soon to come. Now, as I mentioned, there's no clear lines of succession, which leads to immediately to a debate. One group believed that the leader should be elected, and this group in particular of his close followers wanted to elect a man named Abu Bakr, who was a close follower of Muhammad's. A second group believed that the leader should come from the Prophet's family, and specifically wanted his son-in-law, Ali, to be the leader. I'm laying the groundwork for this debate because this is soon going to return. Fortunately, in the immediate aftermath of Muhammad's death, there was actually a period of relative peace, despite this debate that had emerged. That was known as the Rashidun, which is known as the period of rightly guided caliphs. The terminology rightly guided is a reference to this idea that there's peace, that these people are enacting the caliph and are ruling the caliph in the way that Muhammad himself would have approved of, for example. The caliphs under that period of rightly guided caliphs were Abu Bakr, who became the first leader. Then there was an election of Umar, then an election of Uthman, and now we're starting to have some conflict here. Then Ali, the man who was originally intended to be the leader, according to the people who believed that the Prophet's family should be in charge, he was chosen by his father, Uthman. So we see a shift in the way that power is being delineated. And this is going to lead to a tremendous amount of conflict and, unfortunately, violence. And soon, the death of Ali himself, which is going to surely split the followers. So, as I said here, that change in the designation of the leadership is going to lead to the split of the Ummah. And what emerges is those people who believe that the leader, should be elected, are going to be known as the Sunni Muslims. They are known as the majority, and they are currently the majority of Muslims in the world. One key example of them, they refer to their local leaders as imams. And I'm going to compare that to the Shia Muslims. The leaders who believe that Muhammad's family, specifically Ali, should be the leader, are known as Shi'ah, literally friends of Ali. Or Shi'ah or Shiite Muslims is how this is pronounced, same group of people. Then these people believe that the succession should continue to go through the lineage of the Prophet. There should be a hereditary bloodline association back to Muhammad. Now, the Shia believes that only true leaders of the caliphate are referred to as imams. So we see that difference in belief through the terminology itself that is used by each group. You can see in modern day, less than 15% of the world's Muslims are Shiite, most are Sunni. You can see that map here, two maps of the same idea. In the green here, you can see that most of the Shia Muslims of the world are concentrated in modern day Iran. We see some in Iraq. I believe this has since changed from this map. A larger presence here in Iraq, small group in Afghanistan. Sadly, the differences between Sunni and Shia Muslims have become so entrenched that it has manifested in modern day with a tremendous amount of violence. For example, ISIL is a Sunni Muslim group that not only treats people from the West, meaning United States, Canada, and the West, and our allies, Britain, Germany, so on and so forth. ISIL views not only those countries as a threat, or those groups as a threat, but Shia Muslims themselves. So we see that this split, unfortunately, is not only a religious one in the origins, but has evolved into modern day to be a political conflict. Throughout the violence that came out of the Sunni-Shia split, tremendous amount of violence after the death of Ali, ultimately Islam is still expanding both through the conversion of people and through the sword. So we're starting to see some conquest. And we're actually starting to see that Islam emerging as a political force in this way. At the end of the period of rightly guided caliphs, that what emerged here was a Sunni leadership, a Sunni leader, and that was designated as the rise of the Umayyad dynasty. So we had, as you can see down here in the bottom right, with Rashidun, with a period of rightly guided caliphs, but is ultimately the Sunni Muslims and their belief in an election of this leader that conquers and creates the Umayyad dynasty. They start to unify the Ummah around military campaigns, meaning cooperation, operations for control of agriculture and trade routes. So we start to see the government taking actions here to get access to the trade routes that go across North Africa, access into even the Silk Road to gain resources and start to really create what is more aligned to an empire. The term that's helpful to designate this entire region and this emerging empire is known as Dar al-Islam, which is a term used to describe the unified cultural, economic, and political empire that stretched all the way from India into Europe. So, how did Islam begin? Now, we remember when Muhammad died, it was just that small territory that was controlled, and we now see that there's that by the end of the Umayyad dynasty, there's an incredible amount of territory, much of it conquered by conquest. So now we start to see actual use of violence in military campaign, ultimately resulting in this world of Dar al-Islam. One of the reasons we have that empire is the result of one of the caliphs in the Umayyad dynasty, known as Al-Walid the First, who was ruled from 705 to 715 CE. Under his leadership, there was extensive empire building. That should say Spain, all the way up into Spain, and remarkable architectural achievements. Many people don't know that Islam actually had a strong presence in in Europe, all the way here into Spain, stopped here by the Battle of Tours. One of the things that Walid was well known for too is his construction of what are now some of the most famous mosques of the world.